Listen, the world isn't run by the smartest or the hardest working. It's run by the people who know how to play the game, even when the game is against their own skull. Your brain is a lazy peasant. It wants bread, circuses, and the path of least resistance. If you want to rule your life, you have to treat your mind like a rebellious province. You don't ask for permission to work. You set a trap so the work is the only way out. Machiavelli taught us that it's better to be feared than loved, and that applies to your own ego. If you coddle your mind, it'll betray you the moment things get uncomfortable. Think about that project you've been ducking for weeks. Every time you sit down, your brain screams for a distraction, a snack, a scroll, a nap. The problem isn't your lack of discipline. It's that you've given your brain too many exits. The remedy here is simple. Burn the bridges. If you need to write, go to a place with no Wi-Fi and leave your charger at home. Now, the fear of failing the deadline is greater than the boredom of the task. You've forced a confrontation where the only way to find peace is to finish the job. You have to stop negotiating with a terrorist. Your brain will promise to work tomorrow if you just let it play today. That's a lie designed to keep you weak. Machiavelli noted that a prince who relies on the shifting winds of fortune, or in your case, motivation, will be ruined. You don't need a pep talk, you need a cage. If you have a massive task, lock yourself in a room and give the key to someone who won't let you out until the work is done. The tactic here is removing the choice to quit. When your brain realizes there is no retreat, it stops whining and starts producing. Consider the person who wants to start a business, but spends all day researching instead of selling. The problem is that research feels safe, while selling feels like war. The pivot is to put skin in the game before you're ready. Spend the money, sign the contract, announce the launch date. By creating a situation where failing to work means losing your shirt or your face, you change the math of effort. You aren't trying anymore, you're surviving. And nothing works harder than a man who has no other choice. A prince never shows his full hand, and you shouldn't either, especially not to yourself. If you tell your brain you're going to work for 12 hours straight, it will stage a coup. It will shut down, get tired, or find a headache. Instead, you practice the art of the small con. You tell yourself you're just going to do 5 minutes. Just 5. You're lying, of course, but your brain is a sucker for a low price tag. Once you're in the thick of it, the momentum takes over. Machiavelli said that procrastination brings nothing but danger, so you must use any deception necessary to get the wheels turning. Imagine you're trying to get back into the gym. The couch is calling your name, and the thought of an hour-long sweat session feels like a death sentence. The way through this isn't a motivational speech, it's a trick. Tell yourself you're just going to drive to the parking lot. Once you're there, you might as well go in. Once you're in, you might as well do one set. By the time your brain realizes it's working hard, you're already halfway through the routine. You've outmaneuvered your own laziness by pretending the stakes were lower than they actually were. Your brain is a creature of the moment. It cannot see the horizon. Machiavelli knew that men are so simple and so much the creatures of their present circumstances. Use this simplicity against yourself. When the mountain of work looks too high, don't look at the summit. Look at your feet. The problem is the paralysis that comes from seeing the total cost of victory. The maneuver is to offer your brain a peace treaty that is actually a surrender. Tell yourself, I will just open the file and fix one typo, or I will just put on my running shoes and walk to the mailbox. This is the foot-in-the-door strategy applied to your own ego. You are lowering the barrier to entry until it's so small that even a coward couldn't find an excuse to skip it. You are essentially gaslighting your own biology. Once the seal is broken and the first drop of sweat or ink hits the page, the internal friction vanishes. The false peace works because the hardest part of any conquest isn't the battle itself, it's the decision to march. By making the march look like a stroll, you bypass the brain's defense systems. Think of the student or the worker facing a 5,000-word report. They sit and stare at the blank screen until the anxiety becomes a physical weight. The strategy is to promise the brain it can quit after the first sentence. Just one sentence, then we can go back to scrolling. You write the sentence, then you think, well, I might as well finish the paragraph. Before you know it, you've conquered a province while your brain thought it was just taking a walk. You must be a master of the "just one more" lie. It is the most effective tool in the prince's arsenal for domesticating a lazy spirit. You aren't being dishonest, you're being effective. In the world of results, the how doesn't matter. Only the crown does. Once you have tricked the mind into the first step of the march, you must ensure it doesn't desert you halfway through the campaign. A tired soldier is a dangerous one. If he feels the struggle is for nothing, he will turn his bayonet on his commander. You cannot rule through deception alone. Eventually, the bill comes due, and you must pay your internal forces if you want them to keep fighting the hard battles. Your brain doesn't kurtimosir about your long-term legacy. It's a mercenary. It works for immediate gold. If you try to feed it personal growth or future success, it'll starve and quit on you. You have to pay your internal soldiers if you want them to fight the hard battles. Machiavelli understood that men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. You must tie the hard thing to a cheap thrill. This is how you force hard work without a constant internal civil war. Let's say you have a mountain of boring paperwork or data entry. The problem is that the task offers zero dopamine, so your brain goes on strike. Your fix is to pair the pain with a vice. Only allow yourself to listen to your favorite podcast or eat that specific snack while you are doing the hard work. If the work stops, the reward stops. You are training your mind like a dog. It learns that if it wants the treat, it has to kill the dragon first. You aren't being weak by using rewards. You are being a strategist who knows how to keep the troops motivated. Stop pretending you are above these primitive cravings. A prince who ignores the hunger of his subjects faces a riot. If you have a deep, grueling project that requires hours of focus, the problem is the mental friction of delayed gratification. The workaround is to use high-octane bribes. Tell your brain, if we finish this module, we get 30 minutes of that mindless game. Or, if we hit this sales target, we buy that expensive steak. You are essentially running a protection racket on yourself. You hold the pleasure hostage until the labor is performed. Machiavelli noted that it is necessary for a prince to have the people friendly, otherwise he has no remedy in adversity. Your people are your base instincts. If you grind them into the dirt with no payoff, they will collapse when the real pressure hits. You must be generous with the spoils of war. When you complete a difficult objective, don't just move to the next one like a joyless machine. Celebrate the win with something visceral. Think of the freelancer who can't stay focused. They sit at the desk, but their mind is wandering to the fridge or the phone. The tactic here is the mercenary contract. Write it down. Task X equals reward Y. No work, no pay. If you cheat and take the reward early, you have committed treason against your own sovereignty. You must be a hard taskmaster, but a fair paymaster. By feeding the mercenary mind exactly what it wants, only after it gives you what you need, you turn a rebellious internal critic into a loyal, high-performing soldier. You are buying your way to the top, one bribe at a time. Internal bribes and clever tricks will keep the gears turning in the dark, but eventually, the mercenary gets comfortable. He thinks he can slack off because no one is watching the treasury. To truly force hard work, when the soul is weary, you must step out of the shadows and into the town square. You must invite the judgmental eyes of the world to watch your every move. Privacy is the sanctuary of the weak. Publicity is the castle of the strong. In The Prince, it's noted that a ruler is often kept in check by the opinion of the people. Use this. Private goals are easy to break because no one sees the shame of your surrender. If you want to force yourself into a hard task, put your reputation on the line. Make the cost of quitting higher than the cost of doing the work. Shame is a powerful whip, and a wise strategist knows when to use it on themselves to ensure victory. Machiavelli understood that the vulgar are always taken by what a thing seems to be, so make sure you seem like a man who cannot fail. Imagine you've been meaning to start a business or a new skill, but you keep forgetting to start. The problem is that your secret failure costs you nothing but a little self-loathing, which you've already learned to ignore. The escape route from this cycle of inaction is to announce it publicly. Tell the person you respect, or even the person you hate, exactly what you're going to do and when. Now, if you don't do it, you look like a fraud and a failure. Your brain, which is terrified of social exile, will suddenly find the energy to work hard just to protect its ego. You've created a situation where the hard thing is actually the safest thing for your reputation. You must weaponize your own vanity. Machiavelli argued that it is double glory to deceive the deceiver, and here you are deceiving your own laziness by pretending you have more confidence than you actually do. If you have a massive deadline, tell your boss or your client it will be done 2 days early. The problem is the looming panic of the lie. The counter-move is the adrenaline that panic provides. You have painted yourself into a corner where the only way out is through the work. You are no longer working for money or growth. You are working to avoid the public execution of your character. Think of the person who wants to get fit but quits every Tuesday. They go to the gym alone, they fail alone, and they stay mediocre alone. The maneuver is to join a group, hire a coach, or post your daily progress to 1,000 strangers. If you miss a day, the world sees your weakness. To the Machiavellian mind, being seen as weak is a fate worse than physical pain. You use this fear to bypass your brain's desire for comfort. You aren't finding motivation. You are fleeing from humiliation. By putting your pride on the chopping block, you ensure that your hands keep moving until the crown is won. Once your reputation is on the line, you will realize that standing still is no longer an option. But even a man running from shame can grow weary if he thinks everyone else is resting too. To truly ignite the fire of relentless work, you must stop looking at your own progress and start looking at the person gaining on you. You must turn your natural, ugly impulse for envy into a cold, hard engine for conquest. A wise prince knows that his power is relative. You don't need to be the best in the world. You just need to be more disciplined than the person standing next to you. Your brain loves to feel superior, so use that vanity to crush your own lethargy. When you feel like quitting, look at the crowd. The people who are settling for average, the people who are sleeping in while you're grinding. Machiavelli understood that men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that they rarely look ahead. Use their weakness as your fuel. Imagine you're halfway through a grueling study session or a technical project, and you want to close the laptop. The problem is that your willpower is running dry. Your tactic here is to find a rival, real or imaginary. Think of the person who doubts you or the peer who is currently working while you're thinking about quitting. Suddenly, the hard thing isn't just work, it's a battle for dominance. Your brain, fueled by the desire to win, will find a second wind. You aren't working for the task anymore. You're working to ensure your victory over the competition. Machiavelli taught that it is much safer to be feared than loved, and you should apply this to your own standing in your field. If you are resting, someone else is sharpening their sword. The problem is the comfort of the good enough. The strike against this mindset is to intentionally expose yourself to those who are better than you. Watch the person who is earning more, training harder, or producing faster. Let the sting of their success irritate your ego until you can't stand to sit still. You aren't being toxic, you are being a realist. Consider the entrepreneur who feels balanced while their competitor is taking their market share. The reprogramming is to stop comparing yourself to your past self and start comparing yourself to the person who wants to take what's yours. Use the cruelty of comparison to remind your brain that in the real world, there are no participation trophies. There is only the victor and the forgotten. By focusing on the gap between you and the top, you turn the hard thing into a survival necessity. You don't work hard because you want to. You work hard because you refuse to be at the bottom of the hierarchy. No ruler can defend a city with open gates. If your environment is filled with traitors, your phone, the TV, a messy desk, you are inviting a coup against your productivity. Machiavelli advised that a prince should always be prepared for war, even in times of peace. You must fortify your surroundings so that the hard thing becomes the only thing. If you rely on feeling like working, you have already lost the war. You must engineer the terrain so that the path to laziness is blocked by thorns. Take the example of trying to eat clean or save money. The problem is that when you're tired, your brain takes the easiest route to dopamine, junk food or mindless spending. The maneuver to beat this is to eliminate the choice entirely. Clean out the pantry, delete the shopping apps. By making the bad thing difficult to access, the hard thing, cooking a meal or staying on budget, becomes the path of least resistance. You don't need more self-control, you need a better fortress. Machiavelli noted that the best fortress is to be found in the love of the people. But for your mind, the best fortress is the absence of options. If you sit at a desk with your phone in the other room, you have removed 1,000 temptations in one move. The problem is the friction of decision-making. Every time you choose not to check social media, you burn a little bit of your mental fuel. The reconfiguration is to make that choice impossible. Put the phone in a timed lockbox. Turn off the router. Sit in a chair that's just uncomfortable enough to keep you alert. Think of the writer who can't get a word down because the TV is right there. They think they can just ignore it. That is the arrogance of the doomed. The masterstroke is to change the environment until the work is the only stimulation available. Go to a library where talking is banned. Go to a coffee shop where you're surrounded by other people grinding. You are using the physical world to dictate your mental state. You aren't being extreme, you are being a professional. In the fortress of your environment, laziness should be a crime that is impossible to commit. You don't work because you're a saint. You work because there is literally nothing else to do. Once you have built your fortress and silenced the noise of the world, you will find yourself alone with your ambition. But a fortress is only as strong as the men inside it, and a man who tries to keep every comfort while seeking a crown is a fool. You cannot march toward a great victory while carrying the baggage of a peasant's life. To truly force the hard work, you must decide what you are willing to let die, so that your goal can live. To gain a great kingdom, one must often lose a small village. You cannot do everything, and trying to be balanced is a recipe for being mediocre at everything. Machiavelli taught that a prince must know which vices to indulge and which virtues to fake. To force yourself into hard work, you must choose what you are willing to kill off. If you want to master a craft, you must sacrifice your social standing in unimportant circles or give up your right to relax every evening. Think about the goal you've been chasing but never hitting. The problem is that you're trying to add the hard work on top of a full, comfortable life. Your brain thinks it can have the cake and the conquest. The adjustment is to pick one thing you love, gaming, late nights, or expensive hobbies, and hold it hostage. You tell your brain, we don't get this until the objective is secured. By creating a vacuum of pleasure, you force your mind to seek satisfaction in the work itself. You aren't losing out, you are trading a small, cheap pleasure for a massive, enduring victory. Machiavelli noted that he who seeks to be all things to all men will end by being nothing to anyone. The same applies to your time. The problem is the myth of the well-rounded life. If you want to force hard work, you must become lopsided. You must be willing to be the boring friend who doesn't go out. You must be the obsessed worker who doesn't know the latest TV plot. The remedy is the deliberate pruning of your distractions. You cut the branches so the trunk grows stronger. Consider the athlete who wants to be elite but still wants to party like a college student. They are fighting a war on two fronts and losing both. The pivot is to make the sacrifice visible. Delete the apps, cancel the subscriptions, say no to the invitations that lead to nowhere. When your brain sees that the bridges to your old, easy life are gone, it stops looking back. It realizes that the only way to find joy is to find it in the struggle. You aren't being deprived, you are being refined. In the cold logic of the prince, a sacrifice isn't a loss. It's an investment in a future where you own everything. Finally, you must realize that your internal feelings are irrelevant. A prince acts the part of a leader even when he feels like a coward. If you wait until you feel like doing hard things, you will spend your life waiting in the shadows. You must put on the mask of the person who gets things done. Machiavelli said that everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. If you act like a machine long enough, your brain eventually forgets it was ever a procrastinator. Don't just watch this and go back to your old ways. That's a betrayal of your own potential. Like the video, if you've got the stomach for the truth, and hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these traps you're going to set for your brain today. Are you burning the bridges, or are you putting on the mask? See you in the next one.